Hello everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Andre. When I discovered my wife kissing her boss, that told me everything I needed to know about how long their relationship had been developing and how carefully they had planned their private celebration. What I had intended as a loving surprise was to honor Sophia's promotion. But it became the moment I realized that our 4-year marriage had been competing with another relationship that she had prioritized over our life together. At 34, I had built a successful small business, providing consulting services to local restaurants and hospitality companies. The work gave me flexibility and financial stability. My wife, on the other hand, worked for a mid-sized technology company. Our marriage had begun with shared dreams about being successful. We were passionate about creating a marriage that would eventually include children. My wife, Sophia's, drive and intelligence had been among the qualities that first attracted me to her, and I had been proud to be married to someone whose professional success reflected her dedication and capability. However, as Sophia's career ambitions intensified over the 4 years of our marriage, I began to feel that our shared goals were becoming secondary to her individual achievements. When I would bring up conversations about starting a family, Sophia would ask for more time to establish herself professionally, arguing that having children too early in her career trajectory would limit her opportunities for advancement and leadership roles. I understood Sophia's concerns about balancing motherhood with career development, and I was willing to be patient about our timeline for having children. But I was also beginning to feel like every aspect of our personal life was being postponed in service of Sophia's professional goals, from family planning to vacation time to simply spending quality time together as a couple. As Sophia became more obsessed with climbing to the management level within her company, our household responsibilities reflected her increasing unavailability for domestic tasks and partnership duties. I had gradually taken over most of the cooking, laundry, grocery shopping, and routine errands because Sophia was always too busy with work projects, networking events, or preparation for presentations and meetings. Initially, I had been happy to support Sophia's career development by handling more of our shared responsibilities, understanding that successful partnerships often require temporary imbalances when one person is pursuing important opportunities. But as these arrangements became permanent rather than temporary, I began to feel less like a supportive partner and more like a personal assistant whose job was to manage the logistics of Sophia's life while she focused on more important priorities. Despite my growing sense that I was becoming a side character in Sophia's life story, I continued to be proud of her achievements and optimistic about our future together. Sophia would periodically reassure me that once she received the promotion she was working toward, things would slow down and we could focus more attention on our marriage and family planning. But even as I tried to be understanding of our circumstances, it was hard not to notice the changes in her behavior that create subtle feelings of unease, though I consistently rationalized these observations rather than acknowledging what they might indicate about problems in our marriage. Sophia's phone had started buzzing more frequently with late-night messages from work contacts, particularly from her direct supervisor, whose name appeared in her notifications only as initials rather than his full name. When I would ask about these after-hours communications, Sophia would dismiss my curiosity by explaining that they were work-related discussions that I wouldn't understand or that required immediate attention despite the late hour. I also noticed that Sophia had begun investing significantly more time and money in her appearance, buying new perfumes, periodically updating her professional wardrobe with more expensive and stylish clothing, and establishing a regular workout routine. When I complimented these changes, Sophia would explain them as necessary investments in her professional image and career advancement. These changes in Sophia's appearance and routine seemed consistent with someone who was becoming more confident and successful in her career, and I viewed them as positive developments rather than reasons for concern. I told myself that Sophia's increased attention to her appearance reflected growing self-confidence and professional sophistication rather than any desire to appear attractive to someone other than me. But looking back now, I can see that these changes represented Sophia's preparation for a relationship that was developing alongside our marriage. even though I was too trusting and too focused on supporting her career goals to recognize the warning signs that were becoming increasingly obvious. The situation reached what I thought would be a positive turning point when Sophia came home one evening in March with news that she had finally received the promotion she had been working toward for over a year. She had been selected for a management position that would significantly increase her salary, expand her responsibilities, and position her for further advancement within the company. I was genuinely excited about Sophia's promotion and wanted to celebrate her achievement. But when I suggested that we open a bottle of wine to mark the occasion, Sophia told me that she was too exhausted to celebrate that evening and preferred to postpone our private celebration until she had recovered from the stress and excitement of her promotion. While Sophia's lack of enthusiasm for celebrating her major career achievement immediately felt disappointing, I rationalized her response as natural fatigue after months of intense preparation and advocacy for the promotion. I assumed that she would be more available for the kind of shared celebration that such an important milestone deserved later. The next day, I asked Sophia if she would be free for dinner that evening so we could properly celebrate her promotion together. But Sophia explained that her boss was organizing a small office celebration that day after work, and that we could plan our private celebration after that workplace recognition was completed. I didn't argue with Sophia's preference for celebrating with her colleagues before celebrating with me, though I found it somewhat hurtful that her work relationships seemed to take priority over our marriage, even during personal milestones. I decided to plan a surprise that would demonstrate my pride in her achievement while respecting her timeline for our private celebration. I spent that evening shopping for a thoughtful gift that would commemorate Sophia's promotion, while reflecting the depth of my feelings about her success. I selected a charm bracelet with an engraving that referenced a work quote, something that would show how proud I was of her professional achievements, while honoring our personal history together. I also decided to surprise Sophia at her office celebration with champagne and cake, thinking that an unexpected appearance by her supportive husband might add a special element to her workplace recognition and show her colleagues how much her success meant to our family. I purchased an expensive bottle of champagne and ordered a small celebration cake from a bakery near her office building. I spent considerable time rehearsing what I would say when I surprised Sophia at her office, planning a brief toast that would express my pride in her achievement while being appropriate for a workplace setting. I wanted to strike the right balance between showing my support and respecting the professional nature of the occasion. My excitement about surprising Sophia was tempered by some nervousness about how she would react to my unannounced appearance at her workplace. I wondered whether she would find my gesture touching and romantic, or whether she might be embarrassed by my presence. But my desire to demonstrate my support for Sophia's success outweighed my concerns about her potential reaction, and I convinced myself that any wife would be pleased to have her husband make such an effort to honor her professional achievements in front of her colleagues. On the evening of Sophia's office celebration, I left work early and drove to her company's downtown office building, carrying the champagne, cake, and gift I had prepared for the surprise. The building was mostly empty as the regular workday had ended, with only scattered lights visible in windows where people were working late or attending after-hours events. I took the elevator to Sophia's floor and followed the sound of distant laughter and conversation toward what I assumed was the conference room or break area where her celebration was taking place. The hallway was dimly lit, and most of the individual offices appeared to be empty as I walked toward the source of the voices and laughter. But as I got closer to the sound, I realized that the conversation and laughter were coming from Sophia's individual office rather than from a larger group gathering with no other coworkers around. I approached her office door, which was slightly ajar, expecting to find a small team celebration that was more intimate than I had anticipated. Instead, when I pushed the door open slightly and looked inside, I saw Sophia and her boss, locked in an embrace that was unmistakably romantic and intimate. They were kissing slowly and passionately. Sophia had removed her shoes and was sitting on her desk with her legs wrapped around the boss while he stood between them, their bodies pressed together. What I saw suggested familiarity and ongoing intimacy rather than a spontaneous moment of attraction. The champagne bottle and 2 glasses on Sophia's desk made it clear that this private celebration had been planned in advance and was intended to be an intimate occasion for just the two of them. The scene I was witnessing felt like a physical blow to my chest and stomach, making it difficult to breathe or process what I was seeing. The woman I had been married to for 4 years, the woman I had been supporting through her career development and whose success I had been celebrating, was celebrating her promotion with her boss in a way that made their romantic relationship unmistakably obvious. I stood frozen in the doorway for what felt like several minutes, but was probably only seconds, taking in every detail of the scene as my brain tried to process the implications of what I was witnessing. As Sophia and her boss became aware of my presence and broke apart in shock and confusion, I quietly placed the gift box I had been carrying on the floor outside her office and walked away without saying anything or attempting to confront either of them. I felt too stunned and devastated to engage in the kind of dramatic scene that they were probably expecting, and I needed time to process what I had discovered before deciding how to respond. I walked back through the empty hallway and took the elevator down to the parking garage in a state of emotional numbness that protected me from the full impact of what I had just witnessed. My carefully planned surprise celebration for Sophia's promotion had instead become the moment when I discovered that our marriage had been competing with another relationship that was clearly more important to her than our life together. During the drive home, my phone buzzed with a text message from Sophia that simply said she was sorry and that the kiss with her boss had been a mistake. But I didn't respond to her message, understanding that what I had witnessed wasn't a mistake or a momentary lapse in judgment, but evidence of a relationship that had been developing for months, while I had been focused on supporting what I thought were Sophia's professional goals. By the time I arrived home, I had moved beyond the initial shock of discovery to a kind of calm clarity about what needed to happen next. I couldn't sleep in the same bed with someone who had been conducting an intimate relationship with another man while accepting my support and partnership under pretenses. I packed an overnight bag with essential items and left the house before Sophia returned from her celebration with Michael. Sophia's attempts at damage control began as soon as she arrived home and discovered that I wasn't there. Her text messages progressed from asking where I was to attempting to minimize the significance of what I had witnessed, characterizing her relationship with her boss as just a kiss that had happened because she was overwhelmed by her promotion and grateful for his support at work. But Sophia's explanations couldn't undo what I had seen or change the fact that she had been conducting an intimate relationship with her boss while maintaining our marriage under false pretenses. The champagne and glasses on her desk, their comfortable physical intimacy, and their obvious familiarity with each other's bodies made it clear that this relationship had been developing for much longer than the single evening when I had discovered it. More importantly, I realized that Sophia's kiss with her boss hadn't just happened spontaneously during a moment of celebration. People don't laugh and smile during kisses unless they are comfortable with each other and have been intimate together before. The scene I had witnessed was evidence of an ongoing affair that had been carefully concealed from me while I had been supporting Sophia's career development and believing that we were building a future together. The discovery that the boss was also married added another layer of complication to the situation, as it meant that both Sophia and her boss had been betraying their spouses while conducting their workplace affair. This information confirmed that their relationship wasn't just about personal attraction or professional admiration, but about a deliberate choice to prioritize their affair over their respective marriages and families. In the days that followed, despite Sophia's increasingly desperate attempts to convince me that her relationship with her boss had been a momentary mistake rather than an ongoing betrayal, I contacted a family law attorney and began the process of filing for divorce. The trust that had been the foundation of our marriage had been completely destroyed, and I couldn't imagine rebuilding a relationship with someone who had been conducting an affair while accepting my support and partnership. As the divorce proceedings moved forward, I made the decision to expose Sophia's affair publicly, partly because I wanted her colleagues and social circle to understand why our marriage was ending, and partly because I believed that the boss's wife deserved to know about her husband's infidelity. The affair that had been carefully hidden from both spouses became a workplace scandal that affected both Sophia's and her boss's professional reputations. Sophia's reaction to the public exposure of her affair was anger and defensiveness rather than remorse or accountability. She called me to complain that I was jeopardizing her career and professional relationships by making private matters public, apparently believing that she deserved to maintain her professional reputation while conducting affairs that betrayed both her marriage and her workplace ethics. But the promotion that Sophia had worked so hard to achieve became tainted by the scandal surrounding her relationship with her boss, and her advancement within the company was significantly complicated by the ethical and professional questions raised by their affair. The success that she had prioritized over our marriage became associated with impropriety and poor judgment rather than professional excellence. The months following our separation allowed me to gain perspective on the warning signs that I had missed or rationalized during the final year of our marriage. Sophia's late-night communications with Michael, her increased attention to her appearance, and her emotional distance from me had all been evidence of a relationship that was competing with our marriage for her attention and loyalty. I realized that my willingness to take on additional household responsibilities and support Sophia's career development had inadvertently enabled her to conduct an affair by giving her more time and freedom to pursue her relationship with her boss. My trust and support had been exploited rather than appreciated, and my efforts to be a good husband had made it easier for Sophia to betray our marriage. The divorce was finalized around a year after I discovered Sophia's affair, and I moved into my own apartment, where I could begin rebuilding my life without the constant stress and uncertainty that had characterized our final year together. Living independently allowed me to rediscover interests and activities that had been neglected while I was focused on supporting someone who wasn't invested in our shared future. I threw myself back into growing my business with renewed energy and focus, taking on new clients and expanding into service areas that I had been too distracted to pursue during my marriage. Without the emotional drain of trying to maintain a relationship with someone who was emotionally unavailable, I had more energy and creativity to devote to professional projects that brought me satisfaction and financial success. I also began prioritizing friendships and family relationships that had been marginalized during my marriage, as Sophia's career and social preferences had taken precedence over connections that were important to me. These relationships, based on genuine mutual affection rather than obligation or convenience, reminded me of what authentic connections looked like when they weren't distorted by deception and hidden agendas. Several months after our divorce was finalized, Sophia reached out with a text message expressing regret about how our marriage had ended and claiming that she missed me and the life we had shared together. But by then, I had moved far enough beyond the pain and disappointment of her betrayal to recognize that her regret was probably motivated by loneliness or dissatisfaction with her current circumstances rather than genuine remorse about her choices. I left Sophia's message on read without responding, understanding that the woman who had prioritized her affair with her boss over our marriage didn't deserve access to my attention or emotional energy. Her words of regret, which might have meant something to me during the early stages of discovering her betrayal, now felt meaningless because they came too late and from someone whose character had been revealed through her actions rather than her statements. The experience of discovering Sophia's affair taught me the importance of maintaining my own identity and interests rather than sacrificing everything in the service of someone else's goals and priorities. I had been so focused on being a supportive husband that I had ignored obvious signs that Sophia wasn't equally invested in supporting our marriage. I learned that genuine partnerships require mutual commitment and honest communication rather than one person making sacrifices while the other pursues individual interests that conflict with shared goals. Sophia's willingness to conduct an affair while accepting my support and partnership had shown me that our marriage had never been the priority for her that it had been for me. Most importantly, I discovered that self-respect sometimes requires walking away from people and situations that consistently make you feel undervalued and unimportant. Sophia's affair with her boss hadn't been a momentary mistake, but a deliberate choice to prioritize excitement and career advancement over honesty and commitment to our marriage. The charm bracelet that I had planned to give Sophia to celebrate her promotion remained in my apartment, as a reminder of the difference between the marriage I thought we had been building and the reality of what our relationship had become. The engraving that referenced our shared history felt like a relic from a relationship that had existed more in my imagination than in reality. Looking back on the evening when I discovered Sophia's affair, I realized that witnessing her intimate celebration with her boss was actually a gift that saved me from continuing to invest in a relationship with someone who had already decided it wasn't worth her commitment or honesty. The shock and pain of that discovery had been necessary to show me the truth about what our marriage had become. The surprise I had planned for Sophia became the moment when I discovered that I deserved better than what she had chosen to offer me. Sometimes the most devastating discoveries are also the most liberating, because they provide the clarity needed to choose dignity and self-respect over false hope and continued deception. Sophia's promotion, which she had presented as a goal that would benefit our marriage and family planning, had actually been the framework for conducting an affair that destroyed our relationship. The career success that she had prioritized over our marriage had become associated with betrayal and deception rather than achievement and partnership. The man who had walked into that office building with champagne and cake to celebrate his wife's success walked out with the knowledge that he deserved a partner who would celebrate their shared achievements rather than conduct private celebrations with someone else. That knowledge, however painful to acquire, became the foundation for building a life based on genuine respect and mutual commitment. Thank you for watching.